Undead Nightmare might be one of the craziest games ever made, certainly one of the wildest and most original DLCs. In a way, it heavily reminds me of the Evil Dead trilogy, where the first movie was a serious and bloody horror movie, while the second and third one were turned into horror comedies. And it worked perfectly, as the original Evil Dead trilogy is among some of the best movies ever made, with Ash Williams being the king of badass heroes. Red Dead Redemption is similar in that regard with this DLC. The main game is not a comedy or parody despite having elements of it, but definitely never reaching GTA levels of absurdity or humor. It tells a mature, sad and dark story about a former outlaw having to find and kill his former fellow gang members and friends in order to save his family. He's desperate and ready to do whatever it takes to achieve his goals, even if it means he has to walk the line between good and bad deeds. Undead Nightmare, on the other hand, decided to go as crazy as it can and fill the world with a horror theme and zombie breakout. Undead Nightmare begins as cliché as they come, which is a very good thing. While the base game is serious cowboy business first and Rockstar's silly satire second, Undead Nightmare reverses those priorities. John's family, his sole driving force in the regular story, is zombified within the first 5 minutes, and by the time you reach the town of Blackwater, the surviving residents are already struggling to stay alive. You know, the funniest thing about Undead Nightmare is how easily John just accepts the situation and seems to be barely affected by it. He's not even really freaked out by his wife and son turning into zombies that are trying to bite and eat him.
Jack, be kind to your mother. Abigail, teach the boy right from wrong. Both of you, stop biting chunks out of people. Be back as soon as I can.
If anything, he just seems slightly annoyed that he has to get up this early and deal with the apocalypse. His reactions and comedic timing are solid gold, and it just perfectly reinforces the mood of the whole DLC. The horror atmosphere and theme fits perfectly with the Wild West. It really does have a creepy feeling wherever you are due to all the zombies trying to eat you, but also because the background music, soundtrack and UI changed. The world is darker and screams of people and monsters echo through the night. Undead Nightmare shows how masterfully Rockstar Games writes their stories, because even though everything happening might seem absurd and wild, especially coming from the emotional roller coaster that the main story is, nothing in Undead Nightmare feels out of place or ridiculous. The game doesn't even go all too deep into the lore of these zombies, but it still feels believable and realistic. It's also amazing that Rockstar Games went this way and decided to give us the wildest and craziest DLC they could think of. The best part about this, just like the main game, is the atmosphere. Everything seems spooky and you even get creeped out multiple times due to the unexpected nature of this expansion. These zombies are also pretty hard to kill and only die by headshots, which is harder to do because there's less ammunition lying around and you have to be careful with spending too much of it. There's almost a slight horror survival aspect that enhances the game but never feels overwhelming. Riding over the plains with sunlight breaking through the clouds, or slowly riding over a bridge that's on fire as zombies rampage through a town at night, is extremely atmospheric despite the age of the game. It's still the same map, but it feels different and almost like a completely new location. You know the map, but at the same time there is this uncertainty where you don't know what's waiting for you and what secrets are ahead. You start thinking twice before you go into the woods or the swamp, because these places are filled with zombies and God knows what other kinds of horror. The same is true for the towns, because they were all overrun and the survivors are either all dead or barely holding on. It's a shame that Red Dead Redemption 2 never got its own Undead Nightmare or horror themed expansion. It had lots of potential, especially with how creepy some of the locations were. The towns and smaller settlements of Red Dead Redemption are constantly besieged, and keeping them functional requires turning up to purge zombies every so often. You're supplied with ammo in return while saving areas for the first time unlocks new weapons and gear for John. The zombies themselves are old school. Fire and destroying the brain are the only ways to feasibly kill them, as you'll run out of ammo pretty quickly. Undead Nightmare also makes exploration a lot more fun because now you actively look for some of these mystical monsters, but you're also curious what the map has in store for you and how some of the locations from the main game look when infested with zombies. Undead Nightmare is the perfect Halloween game, especially if you're looking for more than just cheap jump scares or killer clowns. While it may not be as scary as to make you crap your pants, it definitely has the perfect horror atmosphere for Halloween, while also offering a story that's both interesting and over the top.
Have yourself a fine America, and good luck.
We never had that decided. We decided we would hold elections and that I would be leader. You can't even read. Well, I got gravity. I mean, gravy. I mean, folk respect me.
I am the new king, Archibald Andrews. Me. Now pay homage.